Minister, as you know, the North Fringe is a vast new urban district which has been started nearly 20 years ago, stopped for nearly 10 years, up to 20,000 people living there all across Clongriffin and Balmain and the coast and Burnell, and yet we don't have a lot of the key services you'd expect in such a big district: education, health, sport and recreation and so on and so forth. So I'm just asking you if people believe it would be very beneficial to have a multifunctional community centre in the heart of that in Clongriffin, and whether or not the CCAP could be used. You could become one of the stakeholders in such a project.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for the question, Deputy. I propose to take questions 1 and 41 together. My department supports the local community development committees, who are responsible for overseeing local and community development funding and identifying local needs through the local economic and community plan process. Dublin City Council's LECP includes as a strategic goal the provision of a range of public, safe and affordable amenities, activities and facilities that are accessible to people of all ages and abilities. In line with the strategic goal, a community centre was recently established in Clongriffin on the north side of Dublin City. The centre is leased by Dublin City Council, and the amenity is available to local community groups since its official launch on the 14th of May last. My department provides a range of supports to communities and community centres nationwide in both urban and rural areas by helping citizens to participate in the development of their communities and by providing funding to improve facilities. The public participation networks enable citizens to have a greater say in local government decisions which affect their own communities. These networks are represented on local community development committees. In addition, the Community Enhancement Programme, which I launched last month, can contribute towards the renovation of community centres. My department also provides funding under the LEADER programme, which can support the development of community centres outside of the 5 main cities. Separately, once a community centre is in place, the Community Services programme supports community businesses to provide local services and create employment opportunities for disadvantaged people. Under the programme, my department can provide a contribution to the cost of a manager and an agreed number of full-time equivalent positions.
Minister, for the reply. And you mentioned their leader and the other programmes, but it does seem that areas like a huge new urban district, it falls between all the cracks, Minister. You mentioned, for example, we had the opening of this new hub, which essentially is it's a small space really. I think people are talking about, and we have a very vibrant community in Clongriffin and the adjoining districts, besides obviously the local Dubs and people from all over Ireland, including your own county. We also have maybe up to 30-40 different nationalities there. But people feel they've seen in other areas, we're not a strategic development zone, we were never made that, unfortunately, but for example in the T-shirts constituency in Fibblestown, I think, and in a number of other areas, we've seen a major new multifunctional community centre placed beside the secondary school programme, and thereby creating a centre for the area. We've also seen, of course, in many of our comparator cities, like for example Stockholm, which also has a huge new urban district on the north of the city, but where key services were put in at the start, whereas Dublin City Council, Fingal County Council, main developers like Gannon and Cairns and so on, they've been incredibly slow to put in the key services. We had to campaign, for example, for 10 years for a railway station. So I'd urge you again, I welcome what you've said, and I'd urge you again that maybe you could be one of the stakeholders, because I know from being in Westport and Ballina and Castlebar and so on, how the energy you put into looking after the urban spaces in your constituency.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy, I just want to say that I agree with your sentiments, and I have visited some of these communities in both Limerick, Dublin. We have them some in rural Ireland as well. And in relation to the Community Enhancement Programme and the RAPID Programme and the Community Facility Programme, I brought 2 of them schemes together because there was small grant aid. But the good thing about this now is the LCDCs, this is where community groups, elected representatives, Chamber of Commerce, these groups are there, and they can identify the areas most in need of grant aid. Now, I have to be honest, it's not big grant aid. Now, I know it's not your area, Dublin inner city, where we did provide 3.5 million, and there was a big demand, a big need there. Cherry Orchard, I guess, some funding there last year because there was another problem there, and they also had, collected some money. There was a community there. They had no centre. They had no town centre, and big hinterlander people. And I agree with you. I want to see communities like this supported. And now that the economy is beginning to lift, I want to see places like that getting the same opportunity. That's why, in relation to the SICAP programme, the 190 million over the 5 years, to get in and target the disadvantaged, to target these communities, to help particularly the citizens who may not have got a chance over the last number of years, that we can now target them on an individual basis. The amount of people, particularly in this SICAP programme, that have been targeted, set up their own businesses, some of them have been further educated, now creating jobs for them. We have to give them the opportunity, we have to give them the chance, and we have to give them the support.
Thank you very much, Deputy.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, and residents, as I said, just tremendous community spirit and a lot of local community activities, but people feel the need of, as I said, a multifunctional community centre, and people feel that the development, this is a development which started on the basis that it would be like the size of maybe Waterford City, or like Waterford obviously be expanding in the future, but up to maybe 40,000-50,000 people, a huge new urban district, and people feel it's a critical point in its development, Minister, that if we don't come in with community facilities in the next year or two, we could kind of lose the area, and again, we would be facing up to remedial measures then, which we don't want. The indicative cost I've seen on this is perhaps €6–7 million, but it would be important, I think, if the Department was prepared to be one of the stakeholders, one of the pillars of which, as I said, this could be done. Part of the problem is we have two county councils, they're both doing their same opposite things on the other side of the border, smaller community spaces. We need everybody together in a multifaceted effort to try and create a community. And just a final point, does the Department, by the way, in relation to one very final point in relation to centres like pastoral centres which are founded by different religious organisations but which belong to the whole community, are you supportive of supports for those as well?
Final comment, Minister.
Thank you. Just in relation to your last point, I would be supportive of anything that's good for community, and it doesn't matter whether it's what religion or what colour or creed. I want to support communities like that. Now, one of the schemes I might ask you, Deputy, to investigate yourself, and you might talk to Dublin City Council, is a new €2 billion urban regeneration fund, and that fund will be opening sometime in June. And maybe that's something that you could look at, and with the City Council, to make an application under the Urban Regeneration Fund, because these are the kind of projects that should be supported, and maybe with the County Council and other state agencies there, they might assist you and the community to make an application under that fund, and that fund will be opened sometime in June. Announcements will be made sometime in November. But there will also be a second round next year. So maybe it's something that you can start thinking about, something you can start looking at. And all the existing schemes that I have there, these schemes will be there for the support, like the previous question by Deputy O'Queeve in relation to the communities programme that we have there. We provide funding for staff, for managers to support them, the SICAP programme, and all these programmes are there. But I would like if you would look at that urban regeneration scheme, because I want to see areas of disadvantage get an opportunity to draw some funding out of this as well. It doesn't always have to be, where we want to create jobs, but we also have to create a society. We also have to give people an opportunity, and you might investigate that with the local authority to see would they assist you and the community to make an application for that.